In this part, let us see how we can improve WHM Cpanel security before we see how we can host a WordPress website. So when it comes to security, the one place that will give you most of the recommendations that you need to do on your panel is the documentation. So you can get to the documentation. If you come all the way down here, you can click here, and this is going to take you to WHM documentation. So when you're here, you can search for security related things or anything that you need to do. You can always search on the documentation. So for example, let's say I'm looking for best security practices. So I'm looking for security best practices. So I will search and see some of the recommendations that I will get from cpanel. So here under security best practices, I can click on that. Here are other pages with recommendations. So you can click there and see the different options that they provide and how you can achieve them directly on the WHM dashboard. So in this part, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to install CSF Firewall, which is the config server, security, and firewall. This is the one that is mostly used in cpanel servers. I'm just going to log in to my server, enter the passphrase, and there we go. I'm logged in. First things first, I'm going to disable Firewall D. I had enabled it earlier in a previous video. First thing, I have to disable it. All right, so we've disabled Firewall D. Let's go ahead and install CSF. So I can just copy the entire command from there. And before I even paste it, let's just explain it. So this is directly from the cpanel documentation. And the first step here is we are going to go into this directory. And then once we're inside of that directory, we're going to download CSF. It's a small file, less than 2 MB. And then we're going to extract it. And after extracting it, we're going to go into the extracted folder, which is CSF. And then we're going to install CSF using the install script that is there. Copy that, paste, enter. There we go. Installation for CSF is complete. So if we come back to WHM, let me collapse everything here. Down here we have plugins, and you can see right now we don't have the CSF plugin, but if I refresh the page, we should see under plugins, config server is now here. This CSF firewall is now here. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to help us to improve security for our server. CSF is not enabled by default. Right now it is in test mode. So to enable it, you'll just scroll down until you see firewall configuration. Click on that. If you scroll down, you can see here we have testing is on. So you need to make testing off. And that way, it's going to start protecting our server actively. Once you do that, just scroll all the way down and click on change. And now you'll need to restart CSF Firewall. If I was to go back to the home page for CSF, you'll see that firewall starters enabled and running. Let's see which other recommendations we can get from CSF to improve our security. To check the recommendations from CSF that will help us improve security, I'm just going to click here on check server security. Here you'll see there are lots of recommendations. All this can be done, and we're going to do most of them, almost all of them. And down here you can see our server score is 80 out of a possible 103. So let's see how we can improve our server security. All right, so since we are already logged into our server, let's see how we can implement some of this. So we are going to start with the ones that have a link that we can easily get to do via WHM. So the first one that we can do is check shell limits. So this is something we can just enable from here. So I will open this in a new tab. So we'll enable protection, and enabling this is going to protect your SSH resources. If other users are given SSH access, this is going to limit their SSH resource usage. So enable protection. All right, so you can see enabled. Let's go back here and let's see what else we can do. Check background process killer. You should enable each item in WHM. I'm going to click on that, open in a new tab. So the recommendation is that we select all these items. So I'm just going to select all the checkboxes and then save. Let's see if there's anything we can do immediately. Something in WHM settings. So let's start here with the WHM settings. Under tweak settings, that is in server configurations. Let's disable bootstrapper. So these are WHM settings. Let's just go ahead and disable them one at a time. So the first one here is here under tweak settings, and that is under server configuration. We need to disable. So instead of going through the list, I'm just going to select that, copy, come back, Control F to find it, and enable bootstrapper spam trap off. That is a recommendation. And then scroll all the way down and save. But there are other things we're going to do here still. So let's see what else is there. Under tweak settings, check max emails per hour. Copy that, come back, Control F, Control V. So let me click on tweak settings to go back to the settings, and we want to look for max emails per hour. There we go. Here under mail, max hourly emails per domain. You can set a value. So select there and set a value. You can make it 99. So this is a number of emails that can be sent out per hour. You can reduce it or increase it depending on your expectations. And then the next thing before I save, let's see if there's anything on tweak settings that I'm going to change as well that I'll need to change. Check reset password for cPanel accounts. So I will copy this and let's come back here and search for that as well. So I'll just do Control F to search for it. Reset password for cPanel accounts. So you can read more there. Allow cPanel users to reset their password via email. So since that is recommended to be turned off, I'm going to turn that off as well. And there's also another one, reset password for sub accounts. This one I'll also turn off as well. And then we'll come back and see what else is available for changing in tweak settings. So check referrer blank security. Let's go and get that from tweak settings. This is also in tweak settings. So I'll come back to the tweak settings here and I will paste to search for it. So the option is not there. Let me remove that and referrer. So I'll just search for referrer and we have blank referrer safety check that needs to be enabled. And you can read more about what it does there. And then referrer safety check as well. This one, turn it on as well. And let's see what else we have under tweak settings. Check password env variable, copy. So this is going to hide passwords from CGI scripts using the env variable. So let's just come back here under tweak settings because that's under tweak settings. And let's search for passwords. Use MD5 with Apache. Let's just search for the next thing, reset password for cPanel. That one we've turned off. So this one, hide login password from CJ scripts. Of course, that seems like something we should turn on. Check password env variable. You should hide login passwords from CJ scripts. So that's the one we've just changed. Check SMTP restriction. Okay, that is under different settings. I'm looking for the ones which are under tweak settings to finish with those. All right, after doing that, let me come back, scroll all the way down, and then I'm going to save. Let's come back and refresh and see what else is remaining on this end. Resend. We're going to see what else we need to do. So that has increased our score to 89, and we will continue increasing this score until we get the maximum score or almost the maximum score. So we have here check accounts that can access a cPanel user. This one as well is under tweak settings. I didn't see that. Let's come back here and check accounts that can access cPanel user. Copy cPanel user. Come back and Control F to search. Paste. The option we are looking for is cPanel user account, and for that, make sure you set it at that. By default, it will be there. Make sure you use cPanel user only. Let's check if there is anything else in tweak settings that we need to change. Here in tweak settings, there's a suggestion for check proxy subdomains. So this can unmask. So if you want to unmask a user's IP, this needs to be disabled. So let's just search for service subdomains. Copy. And there you go, service subdomains. So this one is enabled. We are going to have to turn it off. Scroll all the way down and then save. Come back here. Refresh. So you can see that has taken us to 92. So let's see what other option we have. Check compilers. Okay, this is a good one. We need to disable the compilers for other users. The root will have access, but other users should not have access to the compilers. Check SMTP restriction. That one as well. We'll just click there to go where that is. Check compilers as well. I will open that in a new tab. So compiler access, this one, just click on disable compilers and it will disable it for other users. If you ever need to enable it for whatever reason, you can come here and enable it. And I'm going to close that. SMTP restrictions doesn't work well with CSF. They collide. That's why CSF recommends that you disable the SMTP restriction. And I refresh the page. Let's see. So check server services. The RPC bind service is not used by cPanel to do anything. So that means that we can enable it without any problem. So I'm just going to copy the name. And first of all, we're going to stop it and then disable it. You can do this on your terminal. So log in to your server. I am logged out. So Control L to clear the screen and then I'll log in again. So the next thing, we need to stop that service, and you can stop it using systemctl stop, the name that I copied, enter. So I can also add this. After getting this warning, let me stop this one as well. I don't know that it's running as well. Enter. There we go. So after stopping the both of them, I'm just going to disable it. System Control delete to delete that, and then I'm going to disable RCP bind. I'm not sure if I'll have to remove the socket as well. Let's just paste that in there. Enter. There we go. So I've removed both of them, and that's a good thing. Let me refresh. There, that has been checked. PHP check. You should consider disabling commonly abused PHP functions. And these are functions that can be used to abuse your system. So that's why they need to be disabled, and they can only be disabled in the PHP INI, which gives the PHP various functions and options to operate with on your system. So that's why you need to disable this to secure your PHP applications, especially if you're running various PHP applications written by other people and you don't know whether they're writing good code. So what you're going to do is you're going to go into the PHP INI editor to edit these files. So first of all, let me just copy this because I will need to search this inside of the PHP INI. So I'll come in here and I'm going to search for PHP INI. So you don't have to do this on your server. There's a built-in PHP INI editor on WHM. So I'm going to open it in a new tab, the multi-PHP INI editor. Open it in a new tab. And then once we get here, I'm going to go into editor mode. And then I'm going to select PHP version 8.1. And I need to search for, so I'll just do Control F. And I will paste in the disable function that I've just copied. And you can see disable function doesn't have anything added to it. So I'm just going to come back here and I will copy this line to disable all these functions that CSF recommends that I disable. I'm going to come in here. I'll just select the entire line and then I will paste to replace that line. So after doing this, of course, you need to save. So to save, just scroll all the way up and then click on save. So you can restart PHP right now. For now, I'm just going to edit PHP 8.2 as well. So I'll come back and I will search for this in my PHP INI. So, it's already there. So I can just press enter to search for it. And there it is. So I'm going to copy this line once again. Copy. Select the entire line. Control V to add that line. And then I will save. So for the changes to take effect, of course, you're going to need to restart PHP and Apache. There are tools to restart your services. To restart a service, I'm just going to search for restart. And let's see if we have PHP FPM. So I'll open that in a new tab. And I will also need to restart Apache. So I'm going to open that as well in a new tab. And if I scroll down, there's an option to restart, and I will click on that to restart it. Apache as well, restart the Apache service. You can see Apache PHP restarted successfully. So let's see what's next on the recommendations. So we've changed the settings for that. We have edited this. Let's just refresh and see if it has been recognized. There we go. One step at a time, and we are getting the green check marks. So that's what we need to do. The next thing, SSH, check SSH on non-standard port. So the default port for SSH is port 22, but you can change the SSH port. So before you change the SSH port, come into the firewall. Here on CSF, there's actually a nice tool here, view listening ports. So you can view listening ports so that the SSH port you're going to change to does not collide with another port. So for example, to change the SSH port, that's one of the things that I had added here. Let's say I want to use port 999, okay? Port 999. I can come back to WHM and I can just search, do Control F to search if there's 999 anywhere. Or you can just go down and see, because the ports are in chronological order. you can just check if the port you want to use is being used by anything else. In this case, it's not being used by anything, so I can change it to port 999. So the first thing I need to do, if I want to change my default SSH port, I need to add the port to my firewall, because if I don't add it, I'm going to get locked out. I won't be able to log into my server. So I'll just click there on config server to go to the homepage of config server, CSF server. I want to add a port. So once you've confirmed that your port is not listed, is not being used by another service, you can just come down to firewall configuration. Where is that? Down here. And if you scroll down, there's an option for allowing TCP in, TCP out. So the port we are going to allow is port 999, and I just want to add it after that, 999. So I'll just allow it in because it is sending information in. So we are going to log in with this port into our SSH. So after doing that, I'm just going to scroll all the way down to change the settings and then restart the firewall. So after restarting the firewall, that's when I'm going to change the SSH port, and then I'm going to try to log in before I even try anything else. So it has been restarted successfully. Let's come back here. To change your port, it's actually very easy. Once you're logged into your server, you just need to go to SSH configuration file and change the port from there. So of course, I'm using sudo. I don't need sudo right now because I am the root user. So I'm going to go to my server. If I'm not already logged in, I would log in, but I'm logged in. So if you're not logged in, log into your server, and I'm going to paste in the command to edit the SSH configuration file. I will enter. If you come down here, you're going to see we have port 22. You can also set numbering in Vim, and I can do it for this example. Set NU. And that's going to set the numbering system. So if you look at number 21, line number 21, we have the port number. I can uncomment it, because if you comment it, it means that it's going to use the default port, which is 22. So I'm going to delete that, and I'm not in insert mode in Vim, so I need to go into insert mode, and I'll just do Shift A. That will put me in insert mode, and I can just delete number 22 and replace it with 999. After doing that, I'll just press escape, and I will do Shift ZZ to save, and I need to restart SSH. So I'm going to do systemctl restart. Let's just do reload SSH. Okay, so SSHD. Okay, I'm used to using Ubuntu, it's usually SSH, so here it's SSHD. So let me open up a new tab. Let me open up a new window of Git Bash and try to log in with our new SSH port. Let's try to log in with the default port 22, enter. You can see connection refused on port 22. So let's try to log in on port 999, enter. And there you go. Now, if we need to log in, we are going to have to use this new port to log in to our SSH. Otherwise, you won't be able to log in. The default SSH port, let's see what result it's going to give us at this point. So SSH port has been changed. So server check for CXS. So for this, open that. It is a paid feature. If you want this, you can buy it and install it, set it up on your server. Unfortunately, I'm not going to go with it, so that will remain as a check mark on my CSF recommendations. Then check for OSM. Let's see if this is also another paid item. So outgoing spam monitor. All right, this is also $40 per server. You can go with it if it is important for you to maintain an order for your mail and detect outgoing spam. However, I'm going to leave that one as well. So these two, I will leave them without working on them because they're paid items. Okay, so let's open the etc configuration file for CSF to see what we can do there. So I'm going to go to my server once again. Let's just use Vim to look at this file. Shift insert. There we go. Restrict syslog. I will copy that. / to search. Shift insert to paste. And then I will enter. I'll press N. All right, so just keep pressing N to keep searching for restrict log. If you want to go back up while searching with Vim, you can do Shift N, and it's going to take you to the previous find. I'm just pressing Shift N to go back, but I can press N to go down, searching for restrict log. So here you can see there's a recommendation. What we need to change is there. So you can see the recommendation there. For this, I'm going to come down here and I will do Shift A to go to the end of this line to put me in insert mode at the end of this line. And then I'll just enter 3 for the recommended option. And that is not the last item that we need to change on this configuration file. The next item I will check is this SMTP block. So I'm going to copy that and I will press escape to go out of edit mode in Vim. And then I will search again for that by pressing / and then shift insert to paste in git bash. And then I will enter to search for it and just press N until we get to the item that needs to be configured. So the item that needs to be configured is there. So to enable this option, I'm going to do Shift A once again, and that's going to take me to the end, and I need to change this to 1 to enable this option. So this one as well, we need to change on the CSF configuration. So I'm going to copy. I will do escape so that I can search for that again. I'm going to enter / and then shift insert to search for that. And you can see it is currently set to 0. So if you want it to be active, you need to set it to 1. I'm going to do Shift A, then change the value of that to 1. Let's see what else we need to change. Syslog check. We need to change this one as well. I'll press escape to go out of insert mode, and then I will search for this syslog check, enter, and then so I've hit the bottom. If you press Shift N, it's going to take you back to the top until you find the item you're looking for. In this case, I'm looking for syslog check. So we need to enable this one as well. So I'm going to do Shift A and I'm going to change the value to 1 to enable it. Let's look at anything else that's remaining. We have this one item that's remaining. Check. So we need to check this one as well. Press escape, search, enter, and I need to enable it. So I'm going to do Shift A 1 to change the value of that, and then I think that's the last item, so I'm just going to do escape and then I'll do Shift ZZ to change those configurations. And then of course I need to restart it, and to restart it I can actually just restart it here. So I'm going to open config server plugin in a new window, and if I scroll down, there is somewhere where it says firewall restart. So I can click on firewall restart. So let's go back and refresh and see if any of these have changed. So I'll refresh, resend. Almost all the other items have been improved. Oh, for this I put 1 second. Okay, so I need to increase the value. I'll run the same command again, and I need to search for syslog check. I will search for this. Shift, insert, enter. So I haven't found it, so I'm just going to press N until I get to the one where I made the change. So syslog check. So if it recommends 300 and 3600, let me just put in 500. That's 500 seconds. So I'm going to escape, and then I'm going to Shift ZZ to save, and I can do CSF -R to restart CSF. Let's come back and reload and see if this is now gone. Okay, so everything seems to be okay other than these ones. There are 2 items that are missing. So we're going to forget about that. I think up to this point, our server is much better than how it was when we began. So as I said, if you need to do the other recommendations, which you should probably look at as well, come here into documentation and look at the recommended best practices. Best practices and search. Click on this best practices link. And here I said there are 4 pages. Look into each of them and look at the recommendations and follow them one step at a time, because most of them are actually things that you need to set up in WHM, and some of them probably are already enabled. That's it for this part. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I will be able to assist you.